It didn't begin with anything wrong. It began with a message that made me smile. I remember sitting on my bed that night, phone in my hand, rereading his words over and over. He asked how my day had been and actually waited for my answer. He didn't rush me. He didn't disappear halfway through the conversation. He listened. That alone felt special. We met online, the way many people do now. At first, it was harmless. Short chats that slowly grew longer. Jokes that turned into late-night conversations. Voice notes that made the silence in my room feel less heavy. He made me feel chosen. He noticed things others didn't. When I said I was tired, he asked why. When I mentioned a bad day, he remembered it days later. He told me I was beautiful in a way that felt gentle, not loud or forced. I had been lonely for a long time, even though I didn't like admitting it. So when he showed interest, I leaned into it. I told myself it was normal, that this was how connection started. Soon, he began sharing personal things. Stories about his past, about people who had hurt him, about how hard it was for him to trust anyone. "I don't open up easily," he said, "but I feel safe with you." Those words settled deep in my chest. I wanted to be that person for him, the one he trusted, the one who made him feel understood. When he called me different from other girls, I believed him. Then one night, the conversation shifted. He didn't ask directly at first. He complimented me more than usual, told me he wished he could see me, said distance made things harder. His words were soft, careful, almost shy. "Can I see you?" he asked. I laughed it off at first, sent a normal picture. He said it wasn't the same, that he wanted something just between us, something private. I hesitated. A small voice inside me warned me to stop, to think, to slow down. But another voice was louder, the one that didn't want to disappoint him, the one that wanted to keep feeling wanted. He reassured me. "It's just for me. I would never share it." "Don't you trust me?" That question lingered. I didn't want to seem difficult. I didn't want him to think I was childish or closed off. I told myself that trust meant taking small risks, so I took one. My hands shook as I pressed send. My heart beat so loudly I could hear it in my ears. For a moment, he replied with excitement, with praise, with words that made me feel desired. But as I stared at my screen, a strange feeling washed over me. It wasn't happiness, it was unease. I told myself it would pass, that I was just nervous, that this was what closeness felt like when you let someone in. I didn't know then that this single moment would change everything. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The next morning, I checked my phone the way I always did. His reply came later than usual, but I told myself he was busy. People get busy, life happens. Still, something felt different. Where his messages used to be warm and full, they were now shorter. Where he once asked questions, he now answered with one-word replies. The energy had changed, but I didn't want to admit it. I told myself not to overthink. Days passed. I found myself rereading old chats, searching for where things went wrong. I wondered if I had said something wrong, if I had been too eager, too available. When I finally asked him if everything was okay, he laughed. "You worry too much," he said. "Relax." I apologized, even though I didn't know what I was apologizing for. Then he started disappearing. He would come online, post things, reply to others, but leave my messages unread. When he returned, he acted like nothing had happened. I felt stupid for caring so much, but I couldn't stop. My mood now depended on whether he replied or not. I hated that about myself. One night I tried to pull back. I replied less. I didn't initiate conversation. I wanted to protect my heart. That's when he messaged me. "Why are you acting strange? Are you angry?" I told him I just needed space. That was when his tone changed completely. "You know I still have your pictures, right?" he wrote. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't loud, it was casual, almost careless. Like he was reminding me of something obvious. My chest tightened. I stared at the message for a long time, hoping I had misunderstood, hoping he would follow it up with a joke, but nothing came. I asked what he meant. He replied with a laughing emoji. "Don't stress me," he said. "I'm just saying." From that moment, everything felt unsafe. The pictures were no longer a shared secret. They were leverage. Every conversation after that felt like walking on broken glass. I chose my words carefully. I laughed when I didn't feel like laughing. I stayed available even when I wanted to disappear. Fear kept me polite. I stopped asking for clarity. I stopped expressing discomfort. I didn't want to provoke him. I thought if I stayed calm, if I stayed kind, nothing bad would happen. But deep down, I knew something had broken. Trust doesn't shatter loudly. Sometimes it cracks quietly, and you only realize later that you are standing on pieces you can put back together. And still, I stayed. Because I didn't know yet that silence would cost me more than speaking up. Fear changes the way you live. I woke up every morning with a tight feeling in my chest. Before my feet touched the floor, my hand reached for my phone. I needed to know if he had sent a message. I needed to know if today would be the day my life fell apart. Every notification made my heart jump. I imagined the worst constantly. I saw my family's faces if they ever found out. I heard whispers behind my back. I imagined people pointing, laughing, judging. The pictures played in my mind like a punishment I couldn't escape. And the worst part was this: I blamed myself. I told myself I should have known better. I told myself I was careless, desperate, weak. I replayed the moment I pressed send over and over, wishing I could pull it back. But you can't unsend trust once it's broken. He still messaged me when it suited him. Not because he cared, but because he wanted control. When he was bored, he appeared. When he wanted attention, he called. And every time I answered. I didn't want to anger him. Sometimes he acted kind again, just enough to confuse me. He would say things like, "You know I like you, right?" Or, "I just don't like stress." Those moments gave me false hope. I told myself maybe I was wrong about him. Maybe I had imagined the threat. Then he would remind me. Not directly. Never loudly. Just small comments, careless jokes, subtle warnings. "You trust me too much," he once said. "Be careful who you annoy," he said another time. I felt trapped in my own silence. He asked for more pictures. I told him I wasn't comfortable. My hands were shaking as I typed the message. For a moment, there was no reply. Then the anger came. He said I had changed. Said I had led him on. Said I was pretending to be innocent after enjoying his attention. His words cut deep because part of me already believed them. I cried alone, quietly, so no one would hear. I didn't tell anyone what was happening. Shame sealed my mouth shut. I thought if I kept this secret long enough, it would disappear. But secrets like this don't fade. They grow heavier. I started withdrawing from people. I laughed less. I trusted no one. On the outside, I looked fine. On the inside, I felt like I was shrinking. I wasn't living anymore. I was waiting. Waiting for a message. Waiting for a threat. Waiting for everything to end. And one night, sitting alone in the dark, something finally broke inside me. I realized I couldn't keep carrying this by myself. Staying silent wasn't protecting me. It was destroying me. The decision didn't come with confidence. It came with exhaustion. I was tired of waking up afraid. Tired of checking my phone with shaking hands. Tired of living in a cage built from silence and shame. That night, I didn't feel brave. I just couldn't keep going the way I was. So I told someone. My voice trembled as I spoke. I stumbled over my words. I expected disappointment, maybe even anger. Instead, I was met with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Understanding. I learned that what was happening to me had a name, that it wasn't love or miscommunication, it was manipulation, it was control, and it was wrong. For the first time, the weight lifted slightly. With support, I began taking careful steps. I saved messages. I kept screenshots. I stopped deleting evidence out of fear. Each small action made me feel a little stronger. Then I blocked him. My finger hovered over the screen before I did it. My heart pounded. I imagined retaliation. I imagined regret. But I pressed the button anyway. Silence followed. At first, it was terrifying. Then it was peaceful. A few days later, he tried to reach me through another account. The message was threatening, familiar. But this time, it didn't hold the same power. Because I wasn't alone anymore. I reported him. I spoke up. I learned that my mistake did not cancel my right to safety or dignity. I learned that fear loses its grip when it is dragged into the light. Healing wasn't instant. Some nights the anxiety returned. Some days, I still felt angry with myself. But slowly, I began forgiving the girl who had just wanted to be loved. I rebuilt my boundaries. I relearned what respect looks like. I understood that anyone who truly cares will never use your vulnerability against you. Now, when I think about that moment, the message, the pictures, the fear, I don't see weakness. I see a lesson. And when I tell this story, I don't tell it to shame myself. I tell it to warn others. To remind someone reading this that they are not alone. That one mistake does not define you, and that your voice is stronger than any threat.